All right, welcome. Today, we're diving into something that sounds like it's straight out of science fiction. But I promise you, it's very, very real. We're talking about turning rich, creamy butter into a fine, shelf-stable powder. I mean, just think about it for a second. We all love butter, right? But its one big weakness is that it has to stay in the fridge, and it definitely doesn't last forever. But what if you could take that incredible flavor with you on a hiking trip? Or just keep it in your pantry for months, maybe even years? Well, that's exactly the problem butter powder is here to solve. So what exactly is this magical dust? Let's get into it and break down why this stuff is such a shelf-stable secret weapon, a total game changer for the kitchen. Okay, so at its heart, it's a dry, free-flowing powder. But the key phrase to focus on here is protective matrix. That's really the core science of the whole thing. See, we're not just, drawing out butter. What's happening is we're cleverly trapping these teeny tiny droplets of butterfat inside a protective shell. And that shell, usually a carbohydrate or a protein, is what stops the flavor and fat from going bad. And this is where it gets really cool, because the uses for this stuff are just fantastic. Imagine you could add a rich, buttery flavor to a dry soup mix, or your pancake batter, or even a spice rub, all without adding any moisture until you're ready to cook. For big food companies, this means they get perfectly consistent buttery flavor in every single package. But for us, it just means butter is ready to go whenever and wherever we need it. Okay, so how do the pros actually make this stuff? We're talking massive quantities here. As you can probably guess, it's not just about mixing some things in a bowl in a giant factory. Nope, it's a super high-tech process, all designed for massive scale and perfect consistency. The gold standard, the real workhorse of the industry, is a method called spray drying. Okay, try to picture this. You have this emulsion, a mix of butterfat and other solids. You spray it as a super fine mist into this big chamber of hot air. The water just poof, it evaporates almost instantly. And what's left behind? A tiny dry particle of butter powder. It's incredibly fast and unbelievably efficient. So the reason this whole process works comes down to one key scientific principle: encapsulation. That's the fancy technical term for building that protective shell we were talking about earlier. As that mist of water vanishes during spray drying, the other stuff in the mix, the carrier solids like milk proteins or starches, they form a solid barrier right around the butterfat. Yeah, this is the perfect way to think about it. It's literally like giving each tiny butterfat molecule its own personal, protective power suit. A little suit of armor that shields it from everything, especially oxygen, which, as we'll see, is the #1 enemy of freshness. And that is how the powder can last for so long without a fridge. But let's be real. What if you don't happen to have an industrial-sized spray dryer in your garage? I mean, who does? Well, don't worry. You can actually get a pretty similar result right at home with a much, much simpler method. So let's head into our own kitchen lab. Okay, before we do anything else, I want you to burn this number into your brain. 2 to 1. Just remember that. This simple little ratio is the absolute key. It's the starting point for your whole kitchen experiment, and it basically unlocks the entire process. So what does 2 to 1 mean? Well, the crucial point here is that we're talking about a ratio by weight, not by volume, so you're going to need a kitchen scale for this. You're going to take 2 parts of a carrier powder, and something like maltodextrin is perfect for this because it has a really neutral taste, for every 1 part of pure butterfat. That carrier is what's going to do all the work of absorbing and trapping the fat. And honestly, the process itself is surprisingly straightforward. First up, you clarify some butter. You just want to get that pure butterfat, leaving the water and milk solids behind. Then, you slowly blend your maltodextrin into that warm fat until you get this thick, kind of non-oily paste. From there, just pop that paste in the fridge to let it get firm, and for the final step, break it up, blitz it in a food processor, and sift it till it's a fine powder. That's really it. All right, so you've made the powder. You're feeling pretty good, but listen, that's only half the battle. Once you've created your masterpiece, you have to protect it. You have to defend it from its one great nemesis, the one thing that wants to undo all your hard work. And our foe has a name: lipid oxidation. It's basically a chemical reaction that just loves to attack fats. And the result? That classic stale, bitter, just plain awful taste we call rancidity. It's the same reason oils go off, or nuts get that bad taste. And it is, without a doubt, the #1 enemy of your butter powder's shelf life. So yeah, let's give this villain a face. Meet the oxidation monster. This guy thrives on 3 things: oxygen, light, and heat.
It's on a mission to attack those delicate fat molecules in your powder, break them down, and completely ruin that amazing buttery flavor you work so hard to preserve.
But here's the good news. We can totally defeat this monster. The strategy is actually pretty simple. You just starve it of everything it loves. So you're going to store your powder in an airtight container. Vacuum sealing is even better to cut off its oxygen supply. You're going to keep it somewhere cold and dark, like your fridge or freezer, and you have to make sure it stays completely dry. You do all that, and your powder will stay fresh for a very, very long time.
Okay, so we've looked at the super high-tech industrial method, and we've also looked at the much more accessible, kitchen-friendly approach. Both have their place, right? Choosing between them is really all about understanding the trade-offs involved. And this really breaks it down nicely. You've got spray drying, which is the industry standard for a reason. It's super efficient, makes a good product. Then there's freeze drying. Now, this will give you the absolute best flavor retention, hands down, but it's really slow and really expensive. And then there's our home method with maltodextrin, which is incredibly cheap and easy to do, but the trade-off is that the butter flavor gets a little diluted by all that carrier powder.
And really, that's the bottom line. There is no single best method. There's only the right method for what you're trying to do. Are you trying to develop a product for mass production? Or are you just looking for a fun kitchen project and maybe a way to make the ultimate travel-friendly brownie mix? Your goal is what determines your method. So there you have it. We've totally demystified the magic of butter powder, taking it all the way from a giant industrial spray tower right down to your kitchen counter. We've unmasked the villain, that oxidation monster, and now you have a solid battle plan to defeat it. You have the science, you have the methods. So the only question left is, with this power, what amazing, delicious, or just incredibly convenient thing are you going to create?